What, the subject
the subject? Yes,
okay.
The subject.
Well, we can do it. I'm down. If I'll let Jesus take the wheel, and in this case, you're Jesus. So let's.
Wow! Don't give me that power. Don't give me that power.
Jesus. Okay.
Time to get your fix. It's a horrible gaming podcast. It's not good, it's not great. Horrible gaming podcast. It's not even what you would call fair. It's really not that good. Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. You have decided for whatever reason to tune into another Horrible Gaming Podcast. I am not alone, though. Usually I am never alone. With me is...
Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard.
I don't think I said my name, weirdly enough. But I am Zachariah with Old Man Gaming.
Does it matter at this point?
I can't imagine
Broadly
that on episode 260 whatever that people are like, who the fuck is that guy? I would say yeah. So we missed last week. Totally my fault. I was feeling a bit under the weather after Trick or Treat. My apologies to everybody. But as I've said repeatedly, we've got to wind down things anyway, just a little bit on the channel. Yeah. If I can't feel up to it, I can't do it. It's just that simple. But still, apologies. Hate missing it for you guys. So yeah, I mean, all in all, it's better for my mental health when I miss it, because gaming has just become a cesspool of fuck that I hate diving into every week. With the exception of I get to spend my time with my wonderful friend Neil here. Yeah. So today's talking point is a mystery to me. Neil has decided to take the wheel, so to speak. So we're going to do fan interaction. Then we're going to go into a mystery talking point. That was Neil's decision. And then we're going to do some news. So we'll be right back with fan interaction. But first, I got to thank the people who make it possible. Behind our ugly mugs, you see a custom graphic that was provided by Mr. Mark Bell. We thank him for that. And then, of course, the theme song for this show and all shows here at Old Man Gaming is provided by the man who makes the music, my brother Nick Van Sliders. We thank him for that. We'll be right back with fan interaction.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Brings us to our first segment, our most important segment, ladies and gentlemen, fan interaction. That's where we talk to you guys, the fans. We read out your comments wherever we get them, whenever we remember to. So we start off with William Hohen. Hi! Exclamation point. Welcome back, Neil! Exclamation point. No matter how the Horrible Game Awards turns out, I'm glad it's happening. Okay. Zach, did you really say son of a beast? Really? Did I? I don't remember. I've been replaying retro games lately, finishing Link's Awakening on the Game Boy. Read between the lines here, wink, wink. But he put Game Boy in quotations. And what a fantastic Zelda game. It holds up so well. You should have pitched Devil's Third. So you know Devil's Third. Okay, Nintendo Alarmo? I'd buy that for $1. Thanks for the show. Hashtag Gauntlet of News. Yeah, so handling them in the order in which you said them, Will. First of all, thanks. I'm glad that you're happy that the Horrible Game Awards are back this year. They are, of course. We're giving ourselves a little bit more space to, and by our, I mean me, space to do the back end stuff. So we've actually already got all the nominations in. I'm going to be compiling a list, making that video probably sometime this week, and then we'll be voting. Yeah, I like the Horrible Game Awards. I don't know if it'll happen next year, but who knows? I will say this. I'm very excited about this year. Everybody has been complaining that, like, they haven't had anything to nominate. And I'm just sitting here like, everybody was complaining last year because we had too many games to nominate, and Baldur's Gate 3 won everything. And this year it's going to be a complete freaking dogfight between these games because everybody's got a different couple, and everybody's like, oh man, I don't know what to nominate. And I'm just sitting here like rubbing my fingers together because I truly have this is a swing here. I truly have no idea who's taken what in what category, and it is very exciting. Like last year, it was real easy to be like, oh, this is going to be what people vote for. But like this year, it's going to, child. It's going to be a fun excursion in Voteland this year.
Yeah, it definitely was pretty hard for me this year to kind of come up with what it was that I was really looking for, because the stuff that I was probably going to put up, like one of them comes out at the end of this week, Mario and Luigi Brothership. So like that's one of the ones falls outside, and I'm sure when I got my hands on Sonic and Shadow, Sonic X Shadow, but I mean some of that stuff, I mean shit, I think I did nom it for some stuff even though I didn't play it knowing full well what I was getting into.
I think it actually came out a day after the deadline, to be honest.
It did?
Yeah, but the thing, but I could listen to the soundtrack on Spotify, so I nominated it for soundtrack because they remastered like basically all the butt rock, and I'm
music.
like, yeah, I'm in for that. Remastered butt rock, yes, thank you very much.
My justification was half of that package is a game that came out in was it 2011 or something. So I that's fine.
I think that it's going to be a very interesting year when it comes to the actual awards and who takes what home. It's just going to be very interesting. But I mean, as far as the nominees goes, I do get it. Like, I had a hard time because I don't think I played one narrative game this year. So like I had to really like do some stretching to find narrative games, because I think every game I played was like a procedurally generated thing or like a game of service or something like that. I will say I can't tell you how happy I am that you said, because you had said one of the games that I definitely was going to nominate comes out next week, so I don't know what to do. Back when we first started the nominations, I was so afraid that like you were that sure that you were going to nominate Veilguard.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
I was so afraid because I'm like, what comes out next week? I totally forgot about Brotherhood, and Brotherhood looks awesome. I'm going to say this, too. Since we're already on the subject, I'm adding to the boycott list. And that would be Dragon's Age. We'll talk about it more in the news because I gave it to Neil to put on the list. I hope he did that.
Yes. He did. He got the general gist of that video just because
I am officially putting that one on the boycott list. I think that makes 3 games total that I boycotted, right? Because it was Tears of the Kingdom,
sounds correct.
Cyberpunk, and now this, I believe.
Well, there was also Halo Infinite.
Oh, yes. I did boycott Halo Infinite. You're right. So 4. This will be the 4th game I've actually boycotted. There have been plenty of games that I've hated, but that they didn't rise to the level of I will never buy that game or play that game. This one does for the shitty things they did leading up to it, which we'll talk about in the news. But yeah, I was very afraid that was going to be it, and I was like, oh no, I don't want to be conflicted with him on that one, but I'm glad.
Yeah, no, I could care less about Dragon Age.
I hate Link's Awakening. It's one of my least favorite Zelda games. It has nothing to do with the playability. I'm completely with you on that one, Will, but the actual story of that game makes me so ungodly mad that I hate that game. I absolutely hate that game. And also, I'm going to say spoilers here for anybody who doesn't want Link's Awakening to be ruined. And I don't know
spoilers for a 25-year-old game.
I don't know how it hasn't been spoiled by the internet for you at all if you're a Zelda person, but any game that is all a dream can go fuck itself. Like, it's the laziest fucking writing there is on this planet, and I will never be okay with that. I hate when I get to the end of the game and it's like, everything you did was a dream. No. Fuck you and fuck the horse you rode in on. You've wasted my time, sir, and you have wasted the time of many others who have played this. I don't want that. That plot storyline is just the worst. It is the worst fucking thing that anybody, like, It's cliche, it's overdone, it's shitty. I hate it. Anytime I get to the end of the game and somebody tells me, "Oh, none of this game was real," I'm just furious.
The only medium that has successfully pulled the whole dream thing off it's actually a twist of it anyways with Inception.
Right.
The very ending of Inception.
Right, but that
just because it poses a question, it doesn't make a statement.
And that one is a little bit different because they're going into dreams to do things in the real world. You know what I mean?
Right.
Whereas with what I'm talking about is specifically that cliched, like, you do something all the way to the end and then the person wakes up and goes, "Oh, it was all a dream. Like, none of that mattered, and maybe I learned a lesson or something." Like, I hate that shit.
So, have you seen the Twilight movies?
What? No. I saw the middle one, I think, weirdly enough.
So, the last one, the very last one, does this whole thing. I guess spoilers for this movie, but if you were going to watch it, you would have watched it already. The whole thing is this big battle between, like, vampires and werewolves, basically.
Right.
But like this like elder council of vampires and stuff like that who are like trying to keep everything in line. Massive thing that's been building up to, and it happens. And this goes for like 15 minutes. Like, people are dying and there's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe they killed that character," and everything like that. And then it just does like this zoom out thing, and it is just somebody doing a read of the future as to what would happen if the battle happens. And they just go like, yeah, and they just go like, "Yeah, I've seen what happens. You don't want to do this." And they go, "Okay," and that's it.
That is the kind of thing that makes me mad. Yes, definitely. You're just wasting my time and energy with that shit. Okay, then we move on to Jason. Wait. The Devil's Third. I love that you know what the Devil's Third is. If anybody would know what the Devil's Third is, it would be William Hohen. And then Nintendo Alarmo. It's stupid. We're going to talk a lot about it because then Jason...
It gets even stupider!
Jason cuts in and goes, "I have a $1,200 phone when it was new. I don't need a $100 alarm clock. I don't care what the clock does. I mean, unless it has actual amazing abilities like clean, wash dishes, repair stuff, etc., etc." Completely in agreement with you, Jason. And we are not always completely in agreement. Today we are. A $100 alarm clock in the year 2024 is fucking stupid. It's just dumb from the absolute tippy top to the absolute stupid bottom.
Yes.
Moving on, Jason then says, "I looked up Boston cream pie. I don't know this thing. It's not even a pie.
No.
It's a cake."
It's a cake.
It is a cake. Boston cream pie is a cake.
A cake.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, there's also the Boston cream pie Little Debbie's though.
Yeah,
like, that's what I was thinking of. I wasn't even thinking about the cake, but they look like Swiss cake rolls, but they've got that goo inside, that yellowish goo. No, I love the goo.
I do love that goo.
That filling on the Boston cream pie is what they put in the donuts, the Boston cream donuts, which are just, oh my God, those are my go-tos. Jason then says,
I'm definitely a fan of cream sticks, though.
Yeah.
Maple cream sticks. But they can't have too much cream in them.
I can't do the cream.
It hurts.
Yeah, the cream is too rich. It's always too rich for me. I can't do it. Like, I take the first bite and I go, "Oh, that's great." And then I take the second bite and I go, "That is enough."
Fine.
Yeah.
And then the third bite is like, "Please, God, help me."
That is too much. Moving on, we then have Jason say, "Wait, detailed horse nuts are not essential?" No, they aren't. You do not need to hire a team to go out into a field and take pictures of horse nuts and then be in charge of rendering those horse nuts and spend millions upon billions of dollars to make the horse nuts realistic. They are not. They are not. And then Jason finishes off by saying, I don't remember now exactly what they said, but Sony compared PS3 to something high class and said it wasn't for everyone, so I was like, okay, bye. If they hadn't taken that stance and I was able to afford one later, I probably would have got one, but nope. And I don't remember that either, but that is a precedent for Sony, where they're just like they get real hoity-toity with their product, and they go, "Oh, this is for the gamers who, you know, want luxury." I mean, just look at the design of the original PS5. That thing is yuck. That aesthetic Art Deco shit that doesn't fit anywhere. That's huge. Like they're kind of weirdos when it comes to that. I kind of agree with that. Like, mine was price point. It was price point. I was working a dishwasher job. I was renting a room. I didn't have a ton of money to spend on something. I could buy an Xbox system for under $300. I could not, a brand new Xbox system for $300. I could play everything that the PlayStation 1 could play. The PlayStation 1 was $200 more. Like, it's a no-brainer, you know?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, Sony historically has just gone through these waves of it's a back and forth that we've talked about before. You know, they each take their turns taking over the actual, like, conversation, or the lead, so to speak, in the console wars. Because inevitably one of them just does something stupid in their hubris, and then it's just taken over by the other one. So now it's Sony's turn to, you know, go fuck off somewhere. And then Microsoft is finally going to get their head out of their ass and stop, you know, releasing half consoles with the, like, Series S and everything like that, and kind of getting their shit together. Probably whenever they have whatever their portable handheld system is, to kind of take back over the conversation. And this will continue ad nauseum.
I do want to point out that neither one of these companies ever learned from their mistakes. And when you look at every time a console has been won or lost, like a console generation has been won or lost, what was the determining factor? Price is the determining factor. The cheaper console always wins. Like, it always wins in that generation. And, like, you can throw all the graphics you want at people, you can throw all the features that you want at people. The fact of the matter is that they have to have enough money to buy the thing. Like, it's that simple. And that's, I think that's why the Xbox 360 did, you know, better than the PS3 when it first came out, because you could buy it for $200 less. And, you know, you look at the original Xbox and the original PlayStation 2, right? PlayStation 2. PlayStation 2 was a cheaper system than the Xbox. Xbox was way too expensive when it first came out. And then you look at the 1 versus the 4, they were a little bit more similar in process. And I would say that might have been the only one that was more decided by features because of Xbox's just complete botching
dumbass
of the lead up to that. But still, the price point on the PlayStation system was better. And, like, the determining factor is always the price point. And they never learn. They win, and then they go, now that we're winning, people will pay more for us, even though the other guys are cheaper. No, they won't. They will always, especially the casual gamers that these people are so, like, obsessed with getting, they're always going to go for the one that's less expensive. Always. Like, it just doesn't make any sense, you know, why you think anything else, you know? And every time, every friend that I've asked, every time I've made a console decision, it has almost always been based on price.
Yeah, I will say personally, at some point the conversation of the games does come up, but the price point really comes up when you first get, like, for console, like the first one of the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is you're all, like, and this is not a shot at you, I'm just saying you're a person who's always going to have all the systems eventually. Like, that's just how you roll. You're eventually going to buy all the systems. So they're trying to get you in the door first before the other guys. That's what they're trying to do. For me, I am not going to own all the systems. I'm going to own, I mean, right now I'm on PC. I've moved over to PC financially, but that was a financial decision as well. But, like, even before that, like, if you're trying to get somebody to switch, the best way to do it is an undercut price. And if they're trying to get you to buy their product first, it's going to be the cheaper one, the one that you can afford. You know what I mean? Like, I think that I mean, and correct me if I'm wrong, if you're looking at 3 systems that you're eventually going to buy all of, and there's one that's definitively cheaper than the other ones, aren't you going to start there?
Yeah. Usually. Yeah.
I mean, 9 times out of 10, right? So, like, I think that, like, it and they never learn from that. You look at Sony now jacking their price up to $700 for this mid-generation overhaul, thinking that it's going to be successful. Why? Why do you think this is going to be successful when every other time... when there are cheaper systems out there, they buy the cheaper systems, you know?
And what I find hilarious too is, you know, I've seen news reports of like, oh, PS5 Pro pre-orders sold out, ... But when you look at it, it's the anniversary edition, not the actual like console itself, like the main PS5 Pro. I work with a couple guys who are like big into gaming too. And every single one of them, we're all just like, no, why would we buy this? Like, the most, why would we buy this?
I mean,
yeah.
You've got the fanboys who are going to go out and buy everything that PlayStation is going to put in front of them every chance they get, you know? And then you've got the rest of us, and the rest of us are going to look at the prices and go, that's too expensive.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Yeah, no.
So that ends Fanteraction. We're going to go talk about our mystery talking point now, guys. So we'll come right back, and then I'll toss it to Neil, and we'll see what it's all about today. So we'll be right back.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to our talking point. I have no earthly idea what it is. So, Neil, take it away.
Okay, so this is actually born of a news bit that I have here. So we'll just burn one of those because I've just been thinking a lot about it lately, funny enough. So, Fantastic is kicking around again.
Oh, God.
So they launched a Kickstarter to resurrect the game. It didn't pan out. After they only got $2,200, they canceled the whole thing. Then announced that they're apparently making some other new game, and then also announced a contest that people could enter to create content for the game, like maps and stuff. And the prize is they'll use it in the game. They'll give you a copy of the game, though, when it comes out. So very clearly, scammers going to scam. So I thought about it, and boy, howdy, have there been a lot of scams in gaming. So I thought it would be kind of fun to go back through and just take a look at some of the more egregious, ongoing, past, current, former scams of games / consoles / others. And I'm sure I have at least one thing to bring up here, but so we can actually just start with the day before, right out of the gate.
The day before was such a train wreck, and I think that I'm still not sure Fantastic is more than one guy just finding ways to do tax shelters with gaming.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a whole company. Like, show me where their brick and mortar is located, and I will change my tune. I truly feel like this is just one guy, like, who has a limited knowledge or a decent knowledge of how the gaming industry works and how to exploit it, and he is just exploiting it to somehow tax shelter and take money. Like, I don't know how he's making money off Kickstarters that fail, because I'm pretty sure everybody gets refunded if you fail a Kickstarter.
I believe so, yes.
But yeah, it's fucking crazy. And just for the record, if there was ever a time for law enforcement officials to go after some people, like the FTC or anybody, man, what happened? Who blew it on fucking the day before? Because that was a fucking pyramid scheme, basically right in front of us, There was reports of it forever before. Why hasn't anybody investigated that? Like, seriously. Of all of the egregious things, I feel like that whoever's behind that company should be in prison for what they did, honestly.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, the fact that somebody or a group of people gave $2,200 for them to even attempt to do, like, resurrect that pile of shit. Like, come on, man. Come on, man. Because this is, normally you can draw a line between like a bad launch / a bad game and a whole ass scam. This here, the line is very clear, and it's a whole ass scam.
Yeah.
They had been for years doing stuff with this. They changed what the game was multiple times. They very clearly presented something that entirely the most was not.
Yeah.
And it just failed spectacularly in spectacular fashion.
Yeah.
And honestly, like, the cherry on top for me with that is anybody who is involved in some sort of scam like that will always use the same line. They will go out of the way to say, no, it's absolutely not a scam.
Yeah.
We did not scam anyone. We didn't steal from anybody. Like, you would take your licks and be like, hey, like,
I mean,
this is what it is.
They didn't refund anybody. They
didn't refund
put
anybody,
the game out, they closed their doors, and then they shut the game down and ran with the money, then stayed alive. Like, how the fuck have they been arrested for, like, fraud? Like, it's ridiculous. The level that they got away with, it just blows my mind. And the fact that they're still creeping around doing this shit and nobody is taking them to task is fucking sad. Like, truly
100%. So, moving along here, one of your favorites, Nintendo Labo.
Oh, man.
Nintendo
man.
Labo.
Oh, man. There's a lot of people out there that would say this isn't a scam, too. Just want to say that.
Yeah, because some of these on this list, there would be some defenders of, and I would argue the opposite. Very much, quite literally, as you have said, time and time again, it is cardboard. You bought a game and put cardboard together and, like, slid your console into the cardboard and did things with it, and it was $100.
Yeah.
Like,
I just want to say this right off the bat. There are few times. Well, there are certain times when I am just super happy that you agree with me on things, because I would go crazy if you didn't. And this was one of those times that I was so happy you were in the same camp as me, because this shit is ridiculous. It's cardboard. 2 kids for hundreds of dollars. There was one of them, the fishing one. You literally folded up cardboard so it looked like a fishing rod, and then it had like a little thing, and you just put the Joy-Con on the end of it and like rolled the Joy-Con up and down. I'm like, that's just the Joy-Con. Like, that's not even. It's just cardboard on the Joy-Con, but you made us give you $100. It is the most ridiculous, over-the-top bullshit crap product that I've ever seen. And the fact that they like presented it as this like really creative thing. No, it isn't. It's cardboard. It was cardboard sheets that you bought, and then you folded them in a certain way, and then they made accessories for shitty games that you would never use again. I mean, you can't use the Nintendo Labo stuff for anything else. The fishing rod, for example, that you built for the fishing game in Nintendo Labo, that was it. You can't use that in Bass Busters or whatever. Like, that is not, like that was the only game. So you bought these things, or the fucking piano that you could play, like that you made a little piano. What? Just get a piano. Like, this is fucking ridiculous. That shit makes me so mad. I don't even know how else to talk about it other than to just keep I feel like I'm just keep repeating cardboard to children for $100 a pop. Like,
And what I feel like really like was the egregious part of this and the scammy sort of part. I feel like if they had that game come out for your normal, $50, $60, whatever they're going to have for the game, and it was like a pack of like, that's the game, quote unquote, and they have the cardboard to go along with it, fine. That cardboard didn't cost that much. There's no way that their costs for cardboard was an extra 40, 50 bucks. Absolutely, 100% not. You cannot even begin to convince me of that.
No.
So in that case, like, that's what really made it scammy for me. Like, it was not anything.
Loves to do this shit too. Like, we were just talking about in the fan interaction how, like, companies like to present something like it's a luxury of some sort, but it's just bullshit. Nintendo loves the Alarmo. We were just talking about that stupid fucking alarm clock. They had that weird Game & Watch stuff. Like, there's a lot of stuff that they love to be like, look at what we did, we're Nintendo, and it's just like a fucking flute or some shit. It's ridiculous. Nintendo is egregious on the scam components, I personally think. Like, and I've always kind of thought, like, this show, if people go back into the archives, I was a Nintendo hater in the beginning. Like, if there was anything I hated, it was Nintendo. That hasn't fully gone away. I will say that they've made definitely some quality games, and they did some stuff with the Switch that I was not expecting, because I was a Switch detractor when it was first announced. And I own one now. I think it's a decent system. Honestly, I think its biggest problems are game accessibility, but that's a whole nother topic for another conversation. But, like, I think that, like they just love to do this shit, and this is the shit that makes me the most mad. Like, Cardboard to Kids is like, or that Mario Kart thing that they sold not that long ago, where it was like RC cars and you did the Mario Kart on your floor. I'm like, oh, this is a scam somehow. This is just a scam. This is extremely expensive scam.
So the next one that I've come up along with this, I don't know if you'll fully agree with me on this one.
Interesting.
Just because of where the game is now. But
oh no, you're gonna say Skull and Bones, aren't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No, that there is just a bad marketing and a lot of bad decisions. I wouldn't call that a scam. No. I think that's just people talking out of their ass, and a game that was way too long in the oven. That's an entirely different thing.
It's actually a good game. It just was completely presented in the wrong way at every corner of the thing, and made way too expensive. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The next one that I will bring up is No Man's Sky. So,
oh my god,
the reason I'm gonna
balls on this motherfucker. This is walking in here with the brass ones.
Here
calling out one of my all-time favorite games. If I were making a top 10 list, this would be on there.
So here's my argument.
Okay.
The argument that I am making is when they went out and told people like what this was going to be, they're going on late night, they got a ticket to Keeley's Fuck Fest, and they're just saying the most off base shit about, like, with multiplayer, like, 100% there's multiplayer, the chances are really slim, but you can run into people. Like, that's not the case. They were just on and on about the abilities and functionality of this game, and then when it was released, it didn't touch on a lot of that stuff, like not even close to where this was one of the early examples of, whoa, these guys lied all the way to us. Yeah. And the only reason I have it on this list is because it wasn't till people called them out for their bullshit that they said, you know what, we did fuck up. They went into seclusion and started adding the stuff that they promised. If they had come out from the jump and gave us the normal BS line of, oh, well, we have a roadmap and this is just early access and everything like that, while I still would not have appreciated it, I wouldn't put it in the realm of scam. They were straight up lying to folks right from the jump. But that also all being said, the game has since turned around and it has added what it promised and more. So it is a success story, but kind of scammy.
This is a tough one for me for obvious reasons, but I'm going to say this. I've listened to your arguments, and I think you're right. I think in the beginning this was a scam. I think Personally, though, I think this was in a lot of ways an honest mistake. This was Hello Games' first outing. They were hailed as like, when they showed this game off the first time, they were hailed as like, oh, these are the next geniuses. They're changing the industry. They're changing the marketplace, you know? Then it took them, I want to say like 7 years to make that game, to finish it. Like they delayed a lot, right?
A lot.
And they started going on things and talking about it. I think this was this was a rookie mistake. I'm not going to argue with you that it counts as a scam, okay? But I think there are two types of scams. I think there is Nintendo's selling cardboard to kids while they, wring their little hands together like Burns from The Simpsons. And then there's a scam like, oh, we can't possibly deliver on what we've promised. What were we fucking thinking? Sort of thing. And I may be giving them too much credit. The reason I'm giving them this credit, though, is what you said, their behavior after the fact. So these guys, they released the game, and it was not great. It was an okay game. It wasn't like necessarily broken or anything, but it just did not have the features that they had originally stated were going to be in this game. It was a very lackluster kind of... You had the procedural generation of planets, and that was about it. You know what I mean? Like that, like everything that's in it now is kind of stripped down to nothing. And when that came out, and it was met with just like, this is it. This is the big genius thing that everybody's been talking about forever. This is what you're bringing us. This is bullshit. This is a scam. They shut up. They put their heads down, and they have spent the last 10 plus years making this game really good and bringing it up to the level that it should have been in the beginning. So I am not disagreeing with you. I think you make a good case for this to be a scam, to be counted as a scam. As much as I love this game, as much as it's one of my all-time faves, it was definitely a scam in the beginning. I still, and I might be giving them too much credit, I still kind of feel like this was one of those, like, this was their first game. They got a lot of media attention. Sean Murray ran his mouth way too much. And I think he's learned a lot from those mistakes, too, just from the way they've handled games since then. I mean, obviously the way they've handled No Man's Sky, but Light No Fire, we haven't heard shit since their announcement.
Exactly.
He's not running around saying this is the greatest thing ever. He was like, this is what we're working on. Bye now. And they've released 5 or 6 updates for No Man's Sky since then. So, like, I think that they have definitely, like, put some more work in and kind of deserve to bring themselves out of that space. You know, whereas you look at something like, which I'm sure is on this list, but Cyberpunk.
That was the next one.
When you look at Cyberpunk and the way they handled stuff, I won't burn it all now since you're about to talk about it, but they handled it with the most disreputable bullshit after the math, you know, that makes my blood boil that people say it's a good game now.
Well, and then let's actually just talk about it just
Sure.
because we've brought it up here.
Yeah.
You know, I think everybody at this point knows the spectacular failings of Cyberpunk. It was the game with all of the promise and all of the hype, and I feel like it was the first time that the general populace really kind of saw what exactly this hype train does to people. I mean, it was in development for a multitude of years, and there were so many people saying, hey, this game is not ready for prime time, after it kept getting delays and delays and delays and delays and delays. And this one was kind of hand in hand with, like, the games journalism industry at large, because they were put under so many restrictions in what they could talk about. You know, they were presented with a PC build early on that they could only show little bits and pieces of specific footage. And I remember even I was out and about doing stuff that day, and whenever the review first dropped, you and I had a separate side message of, like, this is concerning that they were told that they can only use footage that was provided and not the footage that they capture from the game.
Yeah.
It came out in the state that it was in. The previous generation versions of the game were literally unplayable. The most unplayable state of any game at all. They did frame rates on them, and I think the Xbox One version, it was running at like 15 frames a second or something insane.
It was
like
unplayable.
that.
Yeah.
Nearly unplayable, constant crashes, and Sony pulled it from the storefront.
Yes.
Sony straight up pulled it from the storefront because they said that this is not a complete game. This is like barely a beta. And then they proceeded to, when everybody else was offering refunds, block some people like yourself
Yep.
from getting refunds
Yep.
just because of how long it was that they played the game. It was enough to be removed from sale. Anything else out there, if you went to a store and there was a recall on a product that you had just purchased,
Yeah.
if you brought it back in, even if you just like opened it and said, hey, this can of tuna is a part of this recall, here is this back for you, I would like my money, please. Oh, you already opened it. I mean, okay, but like, I was sold a product that was under recall because it was deemed not suitable for human consumption. Yeah, no, you can't get your money back on that. Like, and even at that point in time too, I remember there was a news article, I think it was ABC News did something about it. Like, it failed so spectacularly that it made actual news, like real news.
Yep.
And they were talking about how, wow, there's no protections for people who buy faulty products in the gaming industry.
Still aren't.
Why is this the only industry that it is? It brought up conversation about scams. It was so bad.
Yep. So to pile on, quite literally, the other things that pissed me off is they were only offering refunds for the Xbox One version, the Xbox, the Xbox whatever newer one version, and the Xbox and the PlayStation. They weren't offering refunds to PC people if they had played more than 2 hours, and I still encountered 3 to 4 game-breaking bugs in the first, like, 3 hours of my gameplay. The things that really pissed me off, too, about this game was even with the reviews being, we can't show you stuff we captured, we can only do pre-recorded stuff that they sent us. Even with that, those reviewers gave 8s, 9s, and 10s.
Yes.
I encountered 3 game-breaking bugs on the PC version of the game, not the one that they were playing, the one that the reviewers were sent. I encountered game-breaking bugs, and that thing got a 9 or a 10 or an 8. That is egregious, and that goes to show, and we're going to talk about it probably a little bit in the news because of what I had added, but why you cannot trust shit that comes from IGN. And you cannot trust shit that necessarily comes from anybody who gets pre-release copies of it. Because with Veilguard recently, they just sent out reviews. They only sent out reviews to reviewers, even though they had working arrangements with all these people. Anybody who had done a preview that was not great, they sent out the review copies only to people who had said nothing but favorable things. So that everybody else was basically blackballed from getting that review ahead of time when they normally would. Because they knew that the people who said nothing but good things would get it. And IGN said nothing but good things because they would get it. Because the thing is IGN is the biggest, gaming news source. They didn't get there by doing good news. They got there by playing the game, and the game is make the video game companies happy. They have unprecedented access to review copies, preview builds, early access, because they will only say what the company wants them to say. And if you look at their review scores, the games that get shitty reviews, that they're willing to give shitty reviews to, are games that are already being peppered in the media that are independent, that they don't owe anything to. Those are the games that they use to boost their credibility so that they can shovel you bullshit AAA titles ahead of time. And CD Projekt Red and Cyberpunk, I think this was one of the first times, like, we live in a post-Cyberpunk world, and I'll put my tinfoil hat on for this one. I still think a lot of the layoffs, a lot of the gaming, fallout is because of Cyberpunk. Because people are not as willing to do the pre-orders. They're not as willing to buy in early. They're not as willing to just give these game companies their money sight unseen when they're not going to get a refund as they were before. And so these games don't sell as well as they used to because they come out and they have middling reviews, and then the people who were waiting don't buy it. We don't live in a time of gaming where the games were selling out before they were even out anymore, and these game companies have built themselves financially on that mentality, like that mentality of all of our games are sold before we even put it out. It's not possible anymore, and I would argue that is because of the scam Cyberpunk, that people as a general whole have gotten slightly smarter as consumers in this industry.
It's wild to think about, like, when you were just talking about, like, gaming outlets, how they've basically turned into an arm of, like, advertising. It's like an advertising firm.
Yes.
For those publishers, because I feel like with the money that those places bring in, of course, because they get all these endorsements and all these things from all these other people, if they were to just purchase the game and put an honest review out there, that sort of shit would, as time goes on, kind of snap people, developers mostly, into this whole, like, well, wait, shit, this game's got to be good, or we're gonna get what we can, or what we get for it. In this digital age now too, there's so much fuckery, and things have changed so much. The idea of a scored review even before a game comes out is a little iffy. I feel like those reviews need to be put out at some random interval after the game comes out, because they have things now, like, back in the day, like you said, there were physical copies that could sell out. That was GameStop's big thing. Yeah, they used to only order copies of the game.
That's how this whole thing started.
Orders.
That's how it started.
It's all GameStop's got it if you pre-order. Well, it's arguable. Not necessarily wrong. Arguable. But then we have games now that can be updated after the fact. So now it's it's a preview build, but the preview build is generally they have some bug patches that'll probably get fixed. That was in like the 2010s to 15s. It was all they'll probably fix that, they'll probably patch it. And then as of about maybe 2 to 3 years ago, they started the whole, well, this is the game that's released, and 4 weeks later, surprise, the premium currency, storefront is then just added into the game after the fact. That's not even a part of a review that's initially released, because they can put the shitty shit after the fact, after they already get the review, because it would then piss those developers off if the reviewing outlet would go back in and say, hey, so this is our revised review after they added this functionality to it. They would no longer get access to those games, and they would just just lose all quote unquote credibility with those publishers and developers. And that's kind of fed into that sort of stuff overall.
If somebody asked me to make laws for the video game industry, the first 2 laws that I would make is, number 1, I would outlaw pre-orders of any kind anywhere. I would outlaw preview builds going to any reviewer or journalistic, whatever. I would say you cannot release the game to anybody until everybody can play it. And that would be the first, because I think that's a lot of the problem, is you have this where, like, the media on the game industry is corrupt, just by virtue of the fact that they have to keep these game companies happy, or they don't get access. And that is frustrating. It is very frustrating. And I would tell everybody out there, you want to watch the IGN review, that's fine. It give you a basic idea of what the game is. But don't go by the review score. Don't go by what they say. Go find an independent YouTuber like Fextra Life or ACG or one of those guys who go out, they buy the game on their own, and they review the game on their own, even if they get a preview build. Because they're going to give you a much more honest opinion than like find somebody you trust, because IGN is not trustable.
Mm-hmm. So moving along, when you look at people that you want to trust, I'll bet you Soulja Boy was not one of the ones that you would trust.
This one's funny.
Because this motherfucker made quote a game console, in that he just co-opted a bunch of like Chinese pre-built emulation consoles and just effectively slapped his name on them.
Just slapped him right on there.
Yeah, you could find the same exact things.
They were illegal. Didn't he get sued for them?
Yes, he got sued into oblivion. He had to stop manufacturing, quote unquote, them because he stuck to his story, man. He was hardcore. I don't know what you're talking about. This is my gaming console. I'm just trying to break out into the gaming space.
Why can I play Mario Brothers on it, Soulja Boy?
Something that looks like a fake PlayStation. Why can I do that? It's just absolute lunacy and idiocy.
Yeah.
I feel like he was just trying to capitalize on things.
There's nothing else to say about that. It's just,
no, there really is not.
Hysterical to me that he was just like, I'm just gonna make a fake system just and sell it like it's a system.
Right. This one, because I only got 2 more in this.
Jesus, you got a lot.
Yeah, well, have you seen things lately?
This is one of the problems with gaming for me.
So, this one here is relatively regarded as a popular-ish game. Star Citizen, man. Star Citizen's got me messed up.
Hate. We're gonna get some hate if we bash on Star Citizen. Aether Dios, a guy who does content for this channel, loves Star Citizen. It's like his favorite game of all time.
And I will preempt this with the most sincerest of apologies. The most sincerest of apologies. This game has been in alpha for over a decade. They've got stuff for sale that's tens of hundreds of thousands of dollars with ships and stuff. There's a line with that sort of stuff where it's ridiculous but hilarious. Special editions of games to where you pay the $50,000 version of, was it Dying Light, I think it was, to be put as an NPC in the game or something like that and have this whole experience. Something like that I find hilarious and endearing because it kind of goes along with the whole nature of gaming, even though I really hope nobody ever spent that kind of money on it. But don't you have to buy fuel with real ass money in that game too?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. But and again,
you can definitely buy stuff with real ass money in that game. But
you can buy everything with real ass money. But I don't know. There has to be a point. I feel like there does have to be a point. Say what?
It's still a beta, right?
Yeah, there
not even a
1.0. If they were full release. If they were 100% full release, I feel like it wouldn't be as bad. But I don't know what it is about the fact that, because that's one of the.
Been in beta for it's 9 years. I feel like.
Yeah, they've been making the game for so long. I feel like there's a point early on that you can't just $50,000 for a ship in the game. By the way, this isn't the full release of the game.
Isn't even a game. It's not even a game.
It feels so scammy to me. I don't know, man. I feel bad that I'm shitting on a game that somebody really likes. But
the
this one makes me just feel bad, but it's I can't get past it.
Here's the thing with Star Citizen. Why I will say not scam. And here's why. They haven't really ever lied to anybody. Like, I think they are ridiculous. Okay? Like, the fact that they have literal ships in the game that cost like $50,000 real cash, I think is ridiculous. I think the fact that the game has been in beta since before my kid was born is ridiculous. That being said, I don't think they've ever like straight up lied to anybody. I also think it's really suspect that that you can't get it on Steam or Epic or any, like, you have to go to their website and buy the game from them and log in with their specific login stuff. All that being said, they've never really lied about anything. It's hard for me to say straight up scam because I have not figured out how they're tricking us, you know? Like, I mean, I guess you could say this game is probably never going to be a real game. It's always going to be a beta until the day that it closes its doors. Could be a scam. But at the same time, like, I don't know. They've just never really lied to anybody, so I can't call them a scam. I think it's ridiculous. I think it's absolutely ridiculous. But I can't call it a scam.
So, and just to kind of put the numbers into context,
sure,
here, because I wanted to really speak a little bit more authoritatively, I suppose is the proper word on this. I just Googled how much money that game has made.
Oh.
And one of the very first responses, Star Citizen, this was a year ago, Star Citizen raised $104 million in 2023 with a total of $644 million in crowdfunding. Mm-hmm. It now has a higher budget than games like Red Dead Redemption 2, Grand Theft Auto 5, and Cyberpunk 2077 combined. Combined.
It's a beast, man. I'm not saying that it's not suspect in a lot of ways, but I can't call it a scam. They haven't lied to us, man. They just haven't. Like, even No Man's Sky, in the beginning, whether on purpose or not, they lied to us. Like, that's the kind of essence of the scam, I guess. And while I feel like, yes, they're somehow a Colombian drug lord, but like they haven't lied to us. We haven't found a lie anywhere in the words that they've said. So like that's my only argument here. I understand why it's on this list. I understand why you put it here. I'm not like trying to start a fight or anything. I can't call it a scam. They haven't. They're ridiculous, but they're honest about being ridiculous. So I don't know that I could straight up say scam, you know?
And that's fair enough, especially, you know, if somebody's going to steal from you and tell you, hey, I'm going to steal all your money, give it to me right now, and you give it to them, then at that point it's not stealing.
It's not stealing.
That is the one thing that I will grant you in this being on the list.
Yeah, like if somebody walked up to you and be like, if you give me all your money, I'll steal all your money. That's a service. That's a service. You know?
It's polite robbery.
Yeah, that's a service. You said you had one more?
Last one. The Kinect. So here's why this is on the list. The Kinect was always told to us to be this big, massive revolution in gaming. And to be fair, they tried their hardest. But it's when they said that the game console will not function without a Kinect.
Yeah,
you
right.
have to have a Kinect. If you don't have the Kinect, you can't do anything with this console. And everybody was like, oh, wow, oh my God, yeah, this is crazy. And they then slowly started patching in the whole, I'll just turn it on with, you know, the controller. And, oh, well, you have to have, you know, software updates and some things have to have compatibility. And then they slowly and quietly got rid of the port that they used for that on the back of the console. Come on, man. Come on, man. It was their attempt to try to go after Nintendo with motion controls, and it didn't work out.
Which, hot take, was a scam in itself, in my opinion. I think motion controls bullshit. I think they always have been bullshit. I think Wii was a one-trick gimmick pony. We've talked about this. It's one of my biggest regretted purchases ever. I think everybody's like, the Wii was the best system. No, it wasn't. You think it was because you played a lot of golf with a party friend. That's why you thought it was. And maybe you played a Zelda game or a Mario game, but it was not a good system. They also lied too. They also said, oh, we're going to have all these third-party games, and they didn't have shit. So, like, because nobody wanted to develop for that fucking stupid motion control thing. The Kinect, same thing. They wanted to have cameras in our houses. And as creepy Big Brother shit as that is, they wanted to have cats. They wanted to have cameras in our houses, 100%. They wanted to be able to just constantly have a camera there and us be okay with it. And that is fucked up. And that's the idea that system would run on that. Plus, the Kinect, much like all motion gaming, required an amount of space that not everybody has. You know, especially in Japan, which is a huge market for video games, their housing is incredibly small. I don't have 6 square feet to fucking give this thing a wide berth so that I can jump around on a raft. Like, it was ridiculous. Like, yeah. The Kinect was a scam. I'm with you.
Yeah, it was the fact that they tried to tell us that it was mandatory.
You gotta
that
have
there's nothing we can do. You have to have it. Even though it was optional when it first came out, there's nothing you can do. You gotta have it on the Xbox.
Their announcement for the Xbox One was so utterly bad. It included the Kinect, where it was like, the One will have to have a Kinect. It's all about motion gaming. You touch all the apps and you bring the apps around. It's like Minority Report. And then that whole register your games bullshit that they had.
Yes.
And it was like you had Sony, which is like, look at all these games that we're gonna have, and this system that we're gonna have for you guys. And then you had Nintendo, who's like, look at all these games and these stuff we're gonna have. And then you had Xbox, and they were like, we don't fucking like you. You're gonna point at shit and you're gonna register your shit. We're sick people. Like, it was so confrontational with their fan base. It was crazy.
Very much so.
All right.
Did you have anything to add to the list?
I could talk about scams all day, perceived otherwise, but we're already at like an hour and 12 minutes. We haven't even gotten to the news yet. So, like, I feel like we need to end this, especially since the one scam that jumps into my brain that I haven't talked about at all is Veilguard, and we're going to talk about that in the news. So I feel like I'm just going to save that. The only other scam I would point out is Borderlands 3 and their co-op bullshit, because they specifically only sent out, much like what we're going to talk about, and Cyberpunk and everything else, they only sent out PC copies, so you could not do couch co-op, so the reviewers were not allowed to test the couch co-op, and then when people got the couch co-op, it broke their games. So, like, I feel like that was a good one. But it's right in there with the Cyberpunk thing, you know? Mm-hmm. And the Veilguard thing, which we're going to talk about. Alright, so let's take a break. We'll come back with the news.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
Alright, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the news. Neil likes to collect smaller news stories, not necessarily big enough for a talking point. We like to riff about them, tell you guys about them. Neil, how many you got for us today?
Yes.
Oh, jeez.
It's
like to go to bed at some point tonight.
6 or something.
Holy shit.
The good news is the ones that I have for the majority are pretty like straightforward.
Well, I have one to talk about real quick. So let me get that one. Is
that the one that you sent?
No, it's another one that I didn't send you.
Okay.
I got into the Monster Hunter Wilds beta.
Oh.
I mean, everybody could. It was an open beta.
Open.
Yeah, I played it. It was interesting. I'm still trying to decide whether I want to make a video about it. and go toe-to-toe with Monster Hunter people again. But It was good. The fucking hilarious shit is you should go on the internet and look at some of the like it was a beta. Like it was a beta. Like maybe they should have waited a little bit. But like it would, first of all, the settings were always set poorly, so every time I logged in I had to go through all my graphical settings all over again and like reset them so that I could tell what the fuck was going on. And then it had this like warped, like people would turn into like half triangles, like some base model shit. So it would just be, but some of them would be fully loaded in. And it was hilarious. It would be like, yes, this is my sister Nato, and then it just showed Nato, and she's just like a disembodied triangle with like one eye floating. What was hysterical is it would do it to the monsters too. They'd just be like big triangles with triangle tongues like slapping at me. It was fucking hysterical. But all in all, I actually really like this game.
That's good.
I didn't like Rise, but I really enjoyed Wilds. I think that they do some really interesting quality of life stuff here, and it's going to be fun to play when it comes out in February.
Well, I'm glad you at least had a good time with it.
I did. It took me like fucking 3 hours to figure out how to play it, but once I did, it was fun.
So, I'm going to actually then start with the one that you sent me.
Okay, let's do it. I already talked about this a little bit.
You talked about it a little bit, yeah. YouTube channel Fextra Life.
Yes.
Did not do a I think they did eventually do a review.
I don't know if it's up yet, but I'm sure that they're
on their own. Yeah, no, it is. Yeah, I see it here on the. They did eventually do a review on it.
I have not watched that yet.
They basically wanted to let everybody know the shitty shit that happens shittily with reviews. Basically, anyone who said anything negative at all, not even like this is really bad. Like, I mean, this is overall a decent experience. There's room for improvement. No, you don't get a review copy.
Yep.
Every single solitary one did not get a review copy. There are people who have gotten them in the past, just did not, just because they've been even slightly critical. This is the shit that we talk about. Yep. This is the shit that is like actually going on, you know, blatantly. It's so weird that it's like this dumb open secret.
Yeah,
everybody knows that it happens. Everybody is very aware that it happens, but every single time something like this happens, even for us, it winds up being something that's newsworthy. It's like, no, we know this is going on. It's just ridiculous.
I think there is a level of egregiousness on this one that rises to it a little bit, you know. A lot of times when you see the review stuff, when you see proof of this kind of review kind of management, it's, you don't see it until the game comes out and the game's shitty and you realize, oh, all of this was a lie. You know what I mean? This was one of the, and I actually posted this Fextra Life video on our Discord if you guys want to go and watch it. It's a 10-minute video. It's very good, very well done by them, and I appreciate it. But they had said basically like all of the people who, you know, all of the YouTube people were invited to a preview event for Dragon's Age Veilguard. They all went to this preview event, then they all released their own preview videos, and if any of their preview videos had anything negative to say at all, then those people were put on a list and did not get review copies. He actually, and more power to them, because they actually pointed out like review scores affect bonuses of CEOs. You also look at BioWare and how bad BioWare's done in the last few years and how much they needed to win. So yeah, they 100% review managed this fucking game. They made sure that the people who were getting the reviews were going to give 8s or above. And yeah.
Yeah, it's... I don't know. It's what point eventually do we get to the point to say, well, that's not good enough?
Well, like, and it comes down to we have to vote with our wallets. And that is why I'm boycotting this game. No matter how good this game is, and it looks like it's a really good game, I am not going to play it. I am not going to give them any money. I do not this practice, this isn't even just like a little one. This is an egregious, very obvious review management, bullshit. And I'm not going to contribute to their dollar bottom line at all. And shame on BioWare. Shame on them. I know they work for EA now, but shame on them. Like, you need to do this to get your fucking game off? Like, that's ridiculous. Like, have some faith in your game.
Yeah, 100%. Especially for something that's been in the oven as long as this.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous.
So, at least the collection of news that I have is not doom. We do have some positives and some fun things in there. Don't get me wrong, the shit is still sprinkled in like a fine dusting. But let's start with the one that I actually I kind of gave kudos for. So Valve has basically said that they're not going to do a yearly hard refresh on the Steam Deck. They're only going to put a new one out when there are meaningful improvements. Their reasoning is because it's not fair to gamers. Wow. Who'da thunk? Who'da thunk? Common sense.
Yeah, I think that's really good. I think the Steam Deck also, it's not necessary. It's still selling. You know what I mean? It's still reaching its critical mass when it comes to like, getting it out there. I think a lot of the big console companies do themselves a disservice when they do this. 2 years after your consoles come out, you're releasing a new console. That just confuses people,
Well, to be fair, even though they said this, they also did the Steam Deck OLED.
That's true.
About a year after the first generation came out, so we can't super give them props. I'll give them the benefit of the doubt because it seems like the OLED version of the Steam Deck was the one they really wanted to release to begin with, but they had, a deadline to meet. Truthfully, for me, the display on a handheld like that is not a deal breaker. Yeah. If I get my hands on a Steam Deck, I'll go for the 64 gig with the base screen, man. I don't care. Like,
well, and I think I don't think their goal was to like make a tier purchase kind of when it comes to the OLED. I think eventually all of the Steam Decks will be OLED Steam Decks. I think it's like you said. I think they wanted that there in the first place, and I think you're gonna be getting copies of the original Steam Deck that were like refurbished and stuff.
Right. So, Cult of the Lamb is getting a special metal album that is actually like real ass metal bands doing covers of the soundtrack for the game.
Man, I hear that game is good.
Yeah, honestly,
I've seen some people play it and it looks
really fun. Yeah, I've really been wanting to. I thought about it too. I really thought about picking it up, especially now they have like local couch co-op.
Oh, that's awesome! I didn't even realize they switched that. That's cool.
So I guess in 2022, Netflix formed a game studio called Blue.
Yeah, they've been around.
Honestly,
forever.
I think this is the first time I even heard anything about it, and it was to announce that they were shutting down the studio before they even released or announced a game.
Yep.
So, solid.
There is like kind of like a feeling that the Netflix gaming wing is shutting down. Which is kind of weird and puts a lot of people in some weird positions. I personally, what irritates me about the whole Netflix gaming thing is they never really advertised it. And like it's there. Like I can go upstairs on my TV and play Oxenfree on there, which is crazy. And like they've got the Ninja Turtles game on their subscription service. Like
Sonic
it's there.
Mania. Sonic Mania is distributed through that. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
I was just screwing around the one day on the Netflix app on my phone and I saw that and I'm like, shit, yeah. Like I was thinking it was something that needed to launch through Netflix. I mean, granted you had to have it on the phone, but yeah, you can just pop it right open. I was on yet another playthrough of Sonic Mania on my phone. I'm like, I didn't know that this was a thing. Like if they make it a distribution platform, fine, cool. I'm okay with that. I mean, it looks like they were trying to be a developer too, but I guess
Yeah.
it didn't work out too well.
They were definitely trying to be developers too. They were trying to be a publisher. They own the company that makes Oxenfree, as well as a few others. William Nguyen actually plays a bunch of the Netflix games, but like I said, I think the common person doesn't even realize they're there. Honestly, when I'm scrolling through the Netflix, like, it's easy to miss that they have games. I don't understand why, especially nowadays when you have a subscription like Game Pass out there that is obviously as successful as it is, that you wouldn't advertise that better. Netflix should have that marketing everywhere, that you can basically, not only do you get all the movies with Netflix, but you can play any of their video games on that service. It would be huge for gamers.
Right.
You know, like right now, I can sign in on my PC with my Netflix and play anything in their fucking library and watch anything in their library. That's actually better than Game Pass. Like, the selection isn't there yet, but it's actually better than Game Pass when you think of the value. So, like, I don't know. It's kind of crazy that they haven't, advertised it at all.
Yeah. So where'd it go? Speaking of canceling and closing, Ubisoft canned the whole staff from the Prince of Persia Lost Throne game.
Yep.
The game that was critically received well, and it was a refreshing return to form that everybody loved, but apparently it just didn't meet those sales expectations. Whatever those expectations were, couldn't meet them. So did
you hear the Larian bashed Ubisoft publicly in the media? Did you see that?
I did not.
Oh my god. I was like pounding my chest at it. There's a whole story where they were interviewing, because I love I can't remember his name because I think it's like Swedish or something, but the guy who runs Larian just will say whatever the fuck he wants to say. Like, he doesn't care anymore, which I love. But like, they were talking to him about stuff, and he was like, Ubisoft is doing everything wrong. He was like, their whole subscriptions over sales like outlook is terrible, and they're eventually going to die because of it, and I think it's stupid. Like, he straight up like called them names, and I was like, nice. And that's where we are. We're in this position now where like good games are being mismanaged and shit on, and then their teams are being fired. Like, was the problem with the critically received Prince of Persia game the developers that made the critically received Prince of Persia game, or was the problem Ubisoft and what they expected out of the game, how they marketed the game, how they brought the game to light, how they brought the game to the people? I think the problem was the publisher, and the publisher made the developers pay. That's how this thing keeps happening. You look at Tango Gameworks, same thing with Hi-Fi Rush. Microsoft shutting down a studio that has a critically received game. Why? It's definitely not because the game was bad, so it's for the wrong reasons. It's the fault should be the fault is on the publisher then, because the only other problem is the publishing of the game,
Right. Square has finally done the thing that is the reasonable and committed an openness to moving towards multi-platform releases from this point on. The idea that third parties are inking deals with specific publishers is just dumb. I remember whenever Street Fighter V came out exclusively on PC and PlayStation, that actually started to pull me away from the franchise, because I started really in deep with 4 and went back to the other ones. But for some reason, they just decided it was a good idea to do it that way. And then I remember reading the article, too, that they were like, oh, Capcom, they're not making as much money as they wanted to on Street Fighter V because you're only releasing on one console. Yep. I get it to some degree, that antiquated thinking of, this is the publisher that works specifically with this developer, like, first party in-house stuff, but inking those deals so that they only release on one platform. Third party games are not console sellers, straight up and down. I care not how much you enjoy that game. It is objectively not a thing. That's why Square doing this, I feel like, is a better option moving forward, because what's crazy is I remember we were talking about this. There was a news article a while back that we were looking at Square was not doing well. And they pointed to Capcom and how they're doing things, because Square and Capcom effectively put out the same stuff for the most part-ish, but they do it in totally different ways. And now they're finally like, yeah, you know what? We've been doing it wrong. Let's do it this way. It makes no sense for a third party like that, especially Final Fantasy.
Yeah.
Such a massive, massive series.
Yeah. Console exclusivity is a thing of the past.
It's dying.
I mean,
yeah.
You look at nowadays when people can just play Game Pass games on their phone. Like the idea that you would then restrict people, like, especially nowadays, people want to be able to play the games they want wherever they want to play them, whenever they want to play them. Like, that's what the consumers want. Like, that's what they want, ease of access. You look at the success of the Steam Deck and the Switch. You look at the success of game clouds and stuff like that. Like, that comes from, and obviously not Stadia, but Stadia did a lot of things wrong. I don't necessarily think that they had the wrong thinking. I think that they did how they did it wrong. I think that like we're in an era now where people just like consoles themselves are kind of shutting down. So to marry your game to one place to play it is just dumb. It's dumb. You are immediately alienating everybody else, you know? And like when you had games back in the day that like we're just releasing it on this console, it's because you're trying to sell that console and you're paying that developer enough money so that they don't mind that they're losing out on all the PlayStation people that they could be also getting money from. But we're not in that era anymore, especially moving into subscription fees and stuff. It's just easier to produce everywhere, you know? Just makes more sense. Exclusivity is dumb. It's dumb.
Yeah.
It makes tribalism, and we don't need it anymore. And honestly, of the things, I mean, all the wrong reasons, because Phil is lying to us about it. I don't want those games to be exclusive either. I wish he had never said they were going to be exclusive in the first place and then rip them away from us like they have done. But like, I don't want those games to be exclusive. I don't want any games to be exclusive. It makes things harder for people to play with the people they want to play with.
Absolutely, 100%. Speaking of playing games, I'm actually going to 3 into 1 because they're all about the same thing.
Sure, let's do it.
They're all running games on shit that's not supposed to be running games.
Okay.
3 separate ones.
Okay.
Oh, and there's another one that I didn't put on there, but that's the one that I'll finalize. I'll finish with. So, first off, somebody got Sonic Generations X Shadow running on a graphing calculator. 2 frames a second, but they got it running on a graphing calculator. I don't know how, what,
That's got to be a fun play.
Oh, yeah, there was video of it, and it does not look... It looks exactly like you think it would look. It is also puzzling as to why somebody would want to do this, but someone also got Windows 95 running on a 3DS.
Okay, all right.
I would love to know how that even began to happen.
Oh, man.
Must be something to do with, their jailbreaking and everything.
Humans are all about coulda and not shoulda, man.
The piece of resistance.
Okay.
Somebody got Doom running on the Nintendo alarm. Of course.
Nintendo alarm.
Of course.
Look,
why not?
Why Doom not? Is going to run everywhere. I think is Doom at this point the most like non-exclusive game that has ever existed. Like that game, you could play that game on people's organs, if I recall correctly. Like
yes, there was. We did a news story about it. Was like cells, using cells to play Doom. There was the lawnmower, the Husqvarna lawnmower. You were able to run Doom on that. We've seen Doom. We've seen Doom running on everything. That's now like the benchmark of
it's the benchmark.
Can it?
Yeah,
can Doom. It run Doom?
Can it run Doom?
Can it run Doom?
That's a
and
T-shirt. I need to make that shirt. Can it run Doom?
But can it run Doom?
But can it run Doom?
And the actual last one, I unfortunately, because I didn't put this on my list because it was when I was swapping over to my new phone, I just remembered it because I remembered Sonic. Somebody went for Halloween as the level City Escape.
How do they do that?
I want to see if I can pull this up here. Apologize for the dead air. I did not save the picture of it. I want to screen share it with you.
Okay. All right.
All right, here we go. Loading it. I'm about to start the screen share.
That's
here. I don't know if I'll be able to, if it'll pull up in the stream.
I see a girl in a dress.
Yes, and if you look at that picture,
Oh my God! That's City Escape.
Okay. The gun truck on her head with the buildings and him running down the street. What in the actual whole ass?
Can I tell you that's so much better than what I saw in my head?
Really?
I just saw somebody with just like a big level just stuck to them and like walking down the street with it and like Sonic that would move down. Like, I can't even begin to explain it. But yeah, that's hysterical. That's hysterical.
But that would be the last of it.
Sweet.
2 weeks worth.
Sweet. Sorry about that, everybody. I think we'll be good for the next few. All right, we're going to take a quick break, and then we will be back with the plugs.
Horrible Gaming Podcast.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, brings us to the end of the show and the shameless self-promotion that comes with it. My good buddy Neil, a.k.a. Tiny Wizard, what would you like to plug?
So, as you may have seen, we are in the midst of going through the second hunt in Ordo Scriptorum. We actually will be recording another one of those here tomorrow, should all things, well, I guess in the past. I keep doing that. I always forget that this is done for a later date. But yes, we are in the process of going along through with that. I think we're about halfway done at this point, it feels like. Maybe a little bit further than that. I could be wrong.
I have no idea. I don't know Wizard's Mind. I haven't played with it
and there is that other thing, which, by the way, I did to mention because it's come out now, and it was super fun doing the episode of I did for my D&D character Valkron the Unknowable in Let's Start With Their Name. That was so much fun to do. I very much enjoyed that. And I actually have been meaning to go back through and listen to other people's ones of them just to pick the minds of individuals. But yeah.
I have been truly thrilled with that show. I think 3 have aired, and I've recorded 5. And it's just been so much fun. Both of those are TTRPG side things out there, people. Ordo is an actual play, and Let's Start With Their Name is I just take a player who's played a tabletop role-playing game. They get to pick a character, and I interview them about the character. It's a nice 20 to 40 minute, fun session. And I actually really had fun with yours, Neil. That was a very fun episode. But we've had all sorts of crazy ones. I think the next one that airs is actually Philbillies, and I thought that was a really good episode too. And I need to get with Kayla.
Yes.
She needs to be interviewed for this.
Yes.
So yeah. As far as me, you can check out Old Man Gaming's shirts over at wizardsrestbite.com and everything we have to offer. We've got Let's Plays, we've got podcasts, we've got all sorts of stuff coming your way. And yeah, other than that, you guys can reach us on Facebook at Old Man Gaming DH, on X at Old Man Gaming 9. You can join our Discord, links in the description below, influence us and all of our shows from there. And as long as you guys keep watching and listening, we'll keep making them. We'll see you guys next time. Pause. We're going to go right into this. because I have been fighting shitting myself for like the
that's
entirety of
fine.
news. This has become a thing. So going, like I'm no joke. I'm like, this could be a problem. This could be a problem.
Could be a problem.
When you said I'm gonna put 3 of these together, I was like, holy shit, thank God, because people would just see my face kind of do this like, and then I would have shit myself. All right, going in 3,